September 2011, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. The desert stretched endlessly beneath a burning sun that seemed determined to drain every ounce of strength from the men moving across it. Staff Sergeant Ryan Mitchell had been deployed 3 times before, but Helmand was different. The roads were lined with danger, the compounds concealed secrets, and every field of dry crops could hide a threat waiting patiently beneath the dust. At 33 years old, Mitchell was considered one of the most experienced men in his company. Born in Texas and raised on a cattle ranch, he had spent most of his life outdoors. Yet nothing in his upbringing had prepared him for the strange feeling that followed him through Helmand. It was the feeling that someone was always watching from beyond the horizon. The mission on that morning appeared simple. Intelligence reports suggested that Taliban fighters were transporting explosives through a network of abandoned compounds north of their patrol base. Mitchell's platoon was tasked with investigating the route and determining whether the reports were accurate. 16 Marines moved out before dawn, their boots sinking slightly into the cold desert earth. The darkness before sunrise offered temporary relief from the heat, but it also carried its own dangers. Visibility was limited. Every shadow looked suspicious. Every mound of dirt could conceal an explosive device. Nobody spoke much during the movement. Experienced soldiers knew that silence often revealed more than conversation. They had traveled nearly 2 kilometers when an unfamiliar voice suddenly appeared on their radio channel. The transmission was calm and controlled, carrying a British accent that immediately caught everyone's attention. The voice did not introduce itself. It simply said, "Stop moving. 3 meters ahead of your lead man." Mitchell raised his hand instantly. The entire patrol froze. For several moments, nothing happened. The desert remained silent. Then the voice spoke again. "Pressure plate IED buried beneath the track. One more device 10 meters to the right. Hold position." Mitchell stared at the ground in disbelief. He saw nothing unusual. The dirt looked exactly like the rest of the road. Yet 40 minutes later, an explosive disposal team confirmed both devices. Had the patrol continued walking, several Marines would almost certainly have been killed. The incident spread quickly through the battalion. Nobody knew who had issued the warning. Headquarters refused to provide details. Officially, there had been no friendly units operating near Mitchell's location. Unofficially, rumors began circulating about a British reconnaissance team working deep inside Taliban-controlled territory. Soldiers referred to them as ghosts because nobody ever seemed to see them. They appeared only through brief radio transmissions before disappearing once again. Some claimed they were special forces. Others believed they were intelligence operators conducting surveillance missions. Regardless of who they were, every soldier who heard their voice knew one thing. They possessed information nobody else seemed able to obtain. 4 days later, Mitchell encountered the mysterious voice again. His platoon had established an observation position overlooking a dried riverbed frequently used by insurgent fighters. The morning passed quietly. Then the radio crackled to life. 6 armed men approaching from the east. They will enter the riverbed in approximately 2 minutes. Mitchell scanned the area through binoculars but saw nothing. Nearly 90 seconds later, movement appeared exactly where the voice had predicted. 6 fighters emerged from a cluster of trees and moved directly into the riverbed. The Marines were already prepared. The engagement lasted less than 3 minutes. When it ended, the fighters were gone, and Mitchell found himself asking the same question as before. How had someone known their exact location so far in advance? The answer arrived later that afternoon. Mitchell was studying the terrain when he noticed movement less than 20 meters away. 2 figures slowly rose from what appeared to be a patch of empty ground. For a moment, he genuinely thought the earth itself had come alive. Both men wore heavily modified camouflage clothing covered in dust and vegetation. One carried a precision rifle unlike any Mitchell had seen before. Their faces were coated with dirt. Their outlines blended perfectly with the surrounding landscape. They had been observing the area for hours, yet nobody had noticed them. Even after they stood up, Mitchell struggled to believe they had been there the entire time. The older of the 2 men introduced himself simply as James Carter. He offered no rank and no explanation regarding his unit. His voice immediately revealed that he was the same man from the radio transmissions. Carter appeared calm in a way that Mitchell found difficult to understand. There was no sign of tension or excitement despite the dangerous environment. He spoke quietly, answered questions directly, and showed no interest in discussing himself. During their brief conversation, Mitchell learned that Carter's team had been operating in the area for nearly 3 weeks with minimal support. Most of that time had been spent observing routes, compounds, and patterns of movement that others never noticed. What impressed Mitchell most was Carter's patience. The British operator explained that effective reconnaissance was not about taking shots or conducting raids. It was about understanding a battlefield so thoroughly that enemy actions became predictable. Carter described spending entire days watching a single compound. He studied when doors opened, when guards changed positions, when supplies arrived, and when lights appeared after sunset. To many people, it sounded boring. To Carter, it was essential. Every observation contributed to a larger picture. Every detail mattered. The information gathered over weeks often prevented battles before they even began. Several weeks later, intelligence gathered by Carter's team led to a major operation against a Taliban bomb-making network. The mission disrupted multiple supply routes and significantly reduced attacks against coalition forces in the region. Yet Carter received no public recognition. His name appeared in no newspapers. There were no interviews or ceremonies. After completing the operation, his team quietly moved to another sector and continued working. Mitchell never saw them again. The disappearance seemed almost fitting. Men like Carter rarely remained in one place for long. Their success depended on remaining unseen. Years after returning home, Mitchell still remembered the British operator who emerged from the desert like a ghost. He remembered the radio warning that saved 16 lives. He remembered the impossible camouflage, the calm voice, and the patience that seemed beyond ordinary human limits. Most of all, he remembered a lesson that stayed with him long after the war ended. True excellence is often invisible. The people who make the greatest difference are not always the loudest, the most famous, or the most celebrated. Sometimes they are the ones lying quietly in the dust, watching, waiting, and doing the work nobody else notices until the moment it saves a life.